Good evening and welcome to the stream. Let's just get right into it. Whatever part of the world you're in, wherever you might be, into the stream. We got some classic Art Bell this evening. We got it. Here we go. We got the Amityville horror cast.
The family that moved in after the DeFeo murders. The Lutz family, and they're the ones the movie was about, the book and everything, and so tonight we'll get the real story. A couple of things that are going on that are noteworthy, certainly, in North Korea. I wonder if that James could be right, huh? A defiant North Korea ordered UN nuclear inspectors out of the country Friday, said it would restart a lab capable of producing plutonium for nuclear weapons. So they're not. But the UN nuclear watchdog said its inspectors were going to stay right where they announced the expulsions, but said that military action was not being contemplated. I mean, here we have a country that has the means to build nuclear weapons, and they have just announced they're going to do it, and they're throwing out the UN inspectors to build nuclear weapons, and we are not contemplating military action, whereas in Iraq, we're doing more than contemplation. We've ordered a major military force to the Persian Gulf in prep for a possible war with Iraq. Why? Because of perceived weapons of mass destruction building and storing and stuff, right? So, case A, Korea, we do nothing. We don't even contemplate doing anything when they say they're doing it. Case B, where we're not sure they're even doing it, we're going to have a war. And then this, ushering in either a brave new world or a spectacular hoax. A company founded by a religious sect that believes in space aliens announced Friday. It in fact has produced the world's first cloned baby. The Syrian section, they say. Brigitte Bolsier, that little French pixie that heads up that organization that I've interviewed in the past when they said she conceived. Bridget, but the American, came on. I did an interview with Bridget, and she talked about why they were doing what they were doing, what they expected. Their expectations said they had it done. Now they say it's happening. In a moment, Richard C. Owen begins there is one important thing that I announce, and that is this is your final opportunity. As you know, this if you throw in the website, www.artbell.com, where there are some new ghost photographs tonight, Christmas type ghosts. Keith has been with me for years and years and years and years and years. And on Tuesday, with the ending of the current year and the beginning of the next year, which we will ring in with predictions and a review of predictions made last year at the same time. But Keith has been with me all this time. And the Art Bell website go down forevermore. Oh, who knows? Maybe someday I'll bring it back up as a ham radio website or something. I don't know. You know, I own the domain. So it's going down forever, and the new website takes over. Now, you can get a commemorative set of CDs that memorialize this website. And a lot of the stuff that was on it over so many years. And this is about your last chance to do so. Now, the way to do it is to go to artbell.com. You can't miss it. You know, it's your last chance. These will not be for sale after the stroke of midnight. Or after the show, actually at midnight on January 1st. They will go off sale. You will not be able to get them. Come hook or crook or whatever, you can't get them. So, this is your last chance. I suggest you go to artbell.com and start them up between now and the beginning of the new year. Rushing toward us now, I might add. Well, today, here comes Richard C. Hoagland, a good friend for a lot of years on this program, a whole lot of years. And he was at one time advisor to Walter C. Cronkite, and he was an advisor to NASA, and he won the Angstrom Science Award, and he's been invaluable as a part of this program. He will continue to be a part of this program, and he was the man who watched with Walter as the U.S. went to the moon. So we've been to the moon, and we're contemplating I'd find out if so many things that Richard has talked about are true or not. And we've done all this, and still, we haven't conquered the damn common cold. Maybe you could explain that one, Mr. Science. Good evening. I've been thinking a lot about that, Richard. I mean, here we are, cloning a human baby, right? If it's true. We saw conquered the cold.
Well, there are some things, but one has to take them very early. It's the first sign. I thought I was coming down one a couple of days ago, and I took something called oxytocin, which is a naturopathic remedy.
I don't know if I believe in all that, Richard. I mean, yeah, you didn't come down with it. Maybe the answer is you weren't really coming down with it.
Well, it had all the symptoms. No, we don't have more people with our symptoms.
Well, I do want to know about this. Why we haven't done anything about it. Well, you're saying we have, but
I'm saying we have. You just have to look in the right places. Okay. I'm sorry you feel bad.
That's right.
You know, it's Omar, I was thinking all day after you called me and said you want to do something tonight, and I thought, what the heck are we going to talk about?
Well, we're about, I mean, time is short.
Because, well, you can know all the specifics. Everybody knows the landscape. What I wanted to do in the little time we have left, since this is our last show, is to be a little more philosophical. I'd like to turn the tables. I'd like to interview you on a couple of things.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay? But you can have this now, this incarnation of those dealing with the edgy stuff, the things with the edge of perception, the unknowns, the things that haven't nailed out, the mainstream says are crazy and kooky, and other people know or not.
Yeah.
For at least 15 years.
Close to the 15 mark. Yeah, that's right. Yes.
And what I wanted to ask, and I'm sure everybody wants to know the answer is, what do you think you've learned?
I've learned a lot, Richard.
I mean, you see in politics.
I've learned. Oh, I'm still in politics.
Well, be heavy in politics.
I used to do it on a daily basis before I got sick of it.
And then you realize something changed.
Well, that's because I realized there's more to life than the latest political squabble in Washington. I mean, every other talk show host around the country, that's all they do. The latest bull coming out of Washington. Well, there's other things to talk about. There's other things to life. Yeah, that's what moved me to do this program. You asked me what I've learned. I've learned a lot, but how much do I know? I don't have the answer to that one. A lot of what I had thought would begin to happen, Richard, because of all the interviews and everybody I was exposed to, you and many others. A lot of that has begun to come true now. So I'm seeing a lot of what I concluded through what I learned beginning to manifest itself now in the world. But what I really know, absolutely, very little still. What I really know, I just see a lot coming true that I thought would occur. That's not a good answer. It's the best I can do.
So you've connected dots.
Sure.
Things that you suspected might be possible, you say now are more possible?
That's, I think beyond that. I think a lot of the things that I learned led me to believe that certain things would begin to occur in the world, and they are well underway, Richard.
Well, you've written 2 books.
Yep.
One with Whitley and a couple on your own.
Yep.
Actually 3.
Actually 4. The Art of Talk, The Source, The Quickening, and The Coming Global.
And obviously to write a book, you've got to do your homework.
Yep, a lot of work.
In terms of the global climate thing.
It's underway.
You definitely believe that I do is underway.
Yeah. I went on the NBC Today show and got laughed at and poked at by Matt Lauer. And then one day, a year later, I got poked back. And that nonsense aside, the fact of the matter is, anybody who doesn't know that climate change is underway simply isn't watching.
Well, what's interesting is there's climate change not just on the Earth, but as you and I have done shows, there's climate change on Mars. You bet. You may not be aware that there's climate change on Pluto, on the satellites of the outer planets. There is a general warming occurring all over the solar system.
Now that is interesting.
And the mainstream guys haven't a clue.
Oh, now you're on to something, Richard. A general warming going on all over the solar system. You're the first one to say that. I understand that climate changes on planets. and that there are cyclical things that occur. We all know that. That's a big argument we have here about whether our man's hand is involved in that or it's just a normal cyclical change. But you're telling me a warming is underway
all over the solar system.
Now that's news.
Now, in terms of things you learned, you and I have discussed endlessly the Mars data that we've been probing.
Yes.
And the physics that we think we have discerned from that data.
Yes.
And the predictions that physics makes. And we've talked on this program many times about the connection between the physics and the global climate models that you and Whitney wrote about. Well, what's fascinating to me is to tie in the climate change that Malin is reporting on Mars, with the melting of the CO2 ice caps of the South Pole at a rate which is phenomenal. I mean, in a few hundred years, if the melting that they're seeing in these images from year to year keeps going, there'll be no ice cap left, no solid carbon dioxide ice cap.
Well, I'm certainly aware of the warming on Mars. I've read a number of stories about that, Richard, but I didn't know about the other planets.
Well, a few years ago, I mean, we have Hubble in orbit, and it can take images of everything in our backyard. They don't do it very often. But it's very difficult to get data, even with Hubble, on Pluto. Pluto, as you know, is
way out there.
Way out there. It's 4 billion plus miles. It's actually it comes inside the orbit of Neptune for a period of time, and then it goes back out. It's a very elliptical orbit, tilted very, very significantly to the rest of the
yeah. Way out there. What evidence do we have that's warming on Pluto?
Well, a few years ago, the only way they can really discern climate on Pluto is by watching it pass a star. And what they do is they send teams to various islands or tiny parts of continents where the shadow of the star is
spectral photography, I suppose.
Well, you do photometry, is actually what it is. What you're doing is you're watching how the star disappears as the planet overtakes it, and then watch what happens when it reappears. On Earth, the more familiar you would watch a bright star go behind the moon. There are some scientific things that you can discern about the moon. For instance, this is one of the early ways that astronomers realized that the moon had essentially no atmosphere. The moon had an atmosphere, or a star went behind it, you would see the star twinkle, just before it disappeared, because of the heat turbulings of the lower atmosphere on a relatively low gravity world like the moon.
Right.
Well, there is basically no twinkle, so we know there's an upper limit on the atmosphere of the moon, which is like one millionth or something of the Earth's atmosphere. Well, when Pluto, a few years ago, went in front of a fairly bright star,
They got a good look.
They got a good look at the twinkle of the star going in and coming out, ingressing and egressing. Well, what you can do is you can map the twinkles to models of how planetary atmospheres will affect starlight.
So was it Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Global Warming, or what?
Well, it was Twinkle, Twinkle, Mars had a nice, Pluto had a nice, fluffy atmosphere for something so distant and so cold.
Wasn't that interesting?
But it was inside the orbit of Neptune, so we expected it, because it was closer than the eighth planet. And the atmosphere is mostly, carbon monoxide and nitrogen and methane that warm up at very, very cold temperatures and they're still gaseous. Well, a few weeks ago, there was another opportunity. And Pluto went in front of another set of stars. And they recorded those observations. Now, Pluto has been receding from the sun. It is now beyond Neptune, moving out to its farthest point from the sun. And when a planet moves that far away from the sun, it gets to be a lot colder. Because out there, the sun is almost like a bright star. It is so damn dim. I mean, 4 billion miles, that's...
So if we were out on Pluto looking back at good old Sol,
it was a brilliant star, but it was actually silver bones because it's different nitrogen temperatures. 400 degrees below zero on a sunny day, right? What was bizarre about the observations is that even though Pluto is moving away and should be a lot colder, it's warmer. The occultation of this star showed the atmosphere was fluffier, the
The first jump I would make, Richard, I mean, the only common thread locally would be one, the sun. The sun getting hotter, the sun getting brighter, the sun changing in some way, causing changes in all the planets that it shares relative space with. That's what, the first talk shows. Yeah, right.
The problem with that is it ain't happening. The sun is doing exactly, except for the sunspot cycle, which is very, very minor. The sun is radiating exactly as much heat and light as it always has. It's not getting brighter. It's not, being expanding variable. It's not doing any of the weird stuff that would cause these progressive changes warming all over the solar system, from Earth all the way up to Pluto.
Well, what other commonality is there, Richard?
It's the hyperdimensional model. I mean, you and Whit touched on it when you talked about cyclic changes.
Yes.
That instead of global warming on Earth being due to civilization and technology and burning of fossil fuels, there may be long-term intrinsic changes in climate. But that's really not answering the question. It merely says it's nature, but it doesn't explain what nature does. What we've been trying to do is to apply this physics to these changes and predict that, in fact, these changes are due to a general change in the energy pass-through, if I can use that word, of the whole solar system. And that this is being triggered by the movements in the model of unseen planets far beyond Pluto that have not been generally discovered or acknowledged yet. But they will be. That's part of, I know it's not Tuesday night, it's Tuesday night.
Are you talking about, you're not talking about what people popularly call Planet X, are you?
No. Well, it might.
Maybe.
It might be a case of mistaken identity, because in our model, there has to be at least one, probably two more big guys out beyond Pluto, orbiting the sun to account for a lot of other factors that we've published on our website, enterprisemission.com.
Well, there does seem to be mainstream evidence that there is something out there. They think it's a large planet or a burned out sun or something.
Several years of observations, they looked at comets. There's this peculiar pattern of comets that appear to be triggered in the inner solar system periodic basis. They're attributing that to some relatively massive object out there. Well, we're saying that there are two. And the way the physics works is that when you get planets in phase, meaning at certain angles, the energy goes up. When planets are out of phase, meaning at other angles, the energy goes down. The planets that we're not even seeing are getting in phase, which changes the amount of energy that comes through the solar system.
Is it related to momentum, Richard?
It is. It's called angular momentum. It's related to the underlying reality of physics, which is that things are not static. They're actually in flux. They're actually vibrating. It's actually a resonant phenomenon. We can speak of waves. We can speak of invisible waves in the ether.
Yes.
And these tend to connect us to a higher set of dimensions.
People would say, you can't have invisible waves in the ether. But then, of course, they're sitting there listening to their radio right now. And do you see any beam coming into your radio? No.
Very good. Anyway, so yes, you and Whit are onto something. Not only is the global warming taking place on this planet, but we now know it's taking place all over the solar system. And that, of course, means...
Yeah, I'm Richard Singleland from the mountains of New Mexico. Richard, welcome back. Yeah, that's another one on the way, and I understand they had like 70-mile-an-hour winds up in the coast of Oregon, California, up there, Washington, I don't know. Yeah, the weather is very serious, and it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse.
It's going to get more extreme, and that is significant for the bank, so plan accordingly. Okay, continuing with our interview, Art.
Sure.
In terms of our artwork, what do you learn?
Well, Richard, a lot of times, no, not a lot of times, but sometimes, when you and I do programs together, you would bring photographs, zillions of photographs to me, and I would look at them and I'd say, this guy's out of his tree. These damn things are rocks. And then on several occasions, you would present me with photographic evidence that I think even a complete idiot couldn't miss. And for example, the latest one, what I call the city, is inescapably true. So, Richard, you have amazed me. Sometimes you've driven me nuts. Sometimes you have, I thought you were just flat wrong. And then sometimes you have just absolutely set me back on my butt. To the point where it was undeniable. There was a city. There is a city below the surface on Mars. There is a city. And
I've done my job.
Nobody who looks at that can deny. I'm sorry?
So I've done my job.
Well, I guess you have, yeah.
Well, it only takes one white crow heart to prove that all crows are black.
That's true.
And out of all the photos, if even one rings your chimes, I won't say all.
I know you found the crow.
If even one is inexplicably bizarre to the point where it demands more answers, we have done our job. Do you know that set of images, that infrared image that was released to us under the most bizarre circumstances this summer, has elicited more over-the-top reaction from our enemies probably than anything that we've been involved in since 1998 when
I'm not surprised, Richard. That is it's way over the top. I mean, it's a damn city. Of course it elicited a lot of reaction.
Well, it should. And oddly enough, I think in a strange way, and I'm going to move into the next area of this with a segue that I hope you'll appreciate. I think it can potentially begin to help us understand why we are moving hell bent for leather toward war with one nation on this planet, when, as you pointed out a moment ago, there's another nation half a world away which has got them, is making them, and dragging them out.
That's right. We're not even contemplating military action while we build up ready to tear into Iraq on the possibility that they might happen. I mean, the whole segment doesn't make sense.
Here's the second one. Apart from the hard data that we've presented, what are your thoughts on the ritual model that we've been talking about for years?
I'm going to have a big problem with that, Richard.
Well, tell me why.
The ritual aspect of it. In other words, I'll go this far, Richard. I think that there is a connection to ancient Egypt, but I don't think it's as complex a connection as you have drawn over the years. Remember Old Navy?
Of course. How could we ever forget?
It's a pretty wild episode. So I think there's some sort of connection. When you look at what's on Mars and you look at Egypt and you don't see similarities, well, then you're not looking. Okay? So I go that far, but, you drew some cases where we launched on certain dates because of ritual connections and all the rest of it. And I don't know that I bought off on that. You asked, I'm telling.
No, I absolutely want you to tell us the way it is.
Well, I'm doing it.
Well, all right. The Egypt connection to me is striking, and to them was totally surprising. Not to the extent that the resemblance of the stuff on Mars looks like the stuff in Egypt, but that there appears to be a group of folks, guys, who are ritualistically following an ancient religion that was attached to the stuff in Egypt. That, to me, that has surprised the hell out of me. And the more I have burrowed into this, the more I've probed, the more surprised and astonished I have become, because this is supposed to be the 21st century. This is supposed to be, people looking at things and behaving scientifically, not according to an ancient religion. And yet that's what the pattern, we talked about pattern recognition early in the program, that's what it's all about.
Well, Richard, with regard to ancient religion, yes, there probably was one. I think the Egyptians knew things, perhaps through some sort of religion that may have been formed around it or may have been the basis of it, who knows, that we still don't know, things that we have not yet learned again things that may be contained in a library under the Sphinx or somewhere else on the planet. I'll be damned if I know, but yeah, they knew something that we don't know again yet.
Even they had access to carefully preserved records of some sort.
Yes, and I think they had the ability to manipulate some sort of physics that we yet have not deciphered.
Okay, well, that brings up, of course, the question of the pyramids.
Oh, yes.
And have you found your piece yet?
No, Richard, I have not.
And I've got to.
And I tore drawers up, and I mean, obviously it's here somewhere, but Richard, in the years that I've been in this wonderful home with my beautiful wife, we have accumulated, well, once we had a garage in which we could spaciously park our two beautiful cars. It is now to the point where the cars, you have to manipulate them extremely carefully while going into the garage, lest you hit what is now occupying the garage, which is almost, half of everything we've had. I mean, it's unbelievable how much we've accumulated. I cannot bring myself to throw things away. It is here, Richard, but I don't know where. And then when I'm retired and I have time to go through all of this stuff, I'll find it.
That means you're starting Tuesday, right?
Well, maybe Wednesday. Yeah, no kidding.
Okay. Anyway, back to the Egypt thing, because if there is a piece of technology that's cool, and we described what that piece is and the radium watch and all that.
It should be noted, by the way, that the piece that I got, and you know how I got it, I did not personally bring it out of Egypt. Do you hear that, Zahi? I did not do it. And Richard, there were other pieces that came out of Egypt. And so the one I have is not the only one.
That's right. In fact, after we did our last show, some folks emailed me and offered me pieces of America. And that is in process, and obviously we will report what happens in future programs. But getting back to the Egypt thing, were you aware that Egypt, ancient Egypt had a major enemy in the same time frame, circa, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago?
Yes.
And it was a place called Sumer.
Yes.
/ Arcadia / Babylonian Empire.
Yes.
You know, of course, what the capital of the Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian Empire was, don't you?
What was it?
The current city known as Baghdad.
Yes.
You know that Saddam Hussein firmly believes he is a reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar.
He does, in fact, yes.
And he has been doing an extraordinary program of restoring ancient sites and temples, funding archaeology, rebuilding palaces and esplanades, and they used to talk about the glory that was Rome. Well, this is much, much more ancient. This is almost to the dawn of written civilization.
Richard, I hope that you bring up a very interesting point, and I hope that somehow Saddam has not uncovered some information about a physics that we have yet to understand and don't want to be surprised by when our bombers head over Baghdad.
Well, this is one of the reasons I raise this, because when you begin to look at the record, and I had a very interesting thing happen over the holidays. I got a book for Christmas. Mike, Robin's son gave me a book I actually wanted to read. I've had time to read it. I've actually taken the last week off, a few other things, Christmas stuff and family stuff, and had time to read this book. It's called Bush's War by Bob Woodward. It was published this fall, and it was supposed to be the first 100 days of the Bush administration. Well, after 9/11, Woodward changed the theme to look at what happened after 9/11 and the preparations for Afghanistan, et cetera, et cetera. And when going through this book, I have seen the most remarkable pattern, more dots, which may not answer the question, why are we hell-bent for leather to go to war with Iraq, but I'm hoping it will raise questions.
Do you imagine that it could be possible, Richard, that we understand that they might have uncovered or be close to uncovering something that we must have and/or / must keep out of their hands?
Given the secretive nature of all of this, I could not say no to that proposition. what I think is more likely is that in this coming year, I mean, you have been doing a commercial now for several months regarding the upcoming Mars opposition in August of 2003.
Yes, sir.
When Mars will be closer than it has been, and you keep reading that number, it's not 50,000, it's closer to 75,000 years.
It's a long time.
Well, the reason that is important is because that number is referenced in some bizarre channeling that were done in Kentucky some 25 or 30 years ago in connection with Mars. 75,000 years, and this cyclic apparition of Mars, when it comes closer than it is at any other time, and we're not talking by a lot, we're talking by maybe 500,000 miles, but it's literally symbolically closer than it has been for an immense period of time. 75,000 years is 3 successional cycles. That's an immense amount of time. If there was a group following these rituals, following their symbols, following their connection with God, applicable in terms of mainstream reactions, is how we can have a country like North Korea, which is obviously led by a madman, obviously very destabilizing, obviously intent on doing some very nasty things, obviously has the technology to do it, is starting reactors to process more fuel so they can, basically begin to build an assembly line for weapons. And we have absolute unequivocal proof this is going on, whereas on the other direction,
We don't.
in Sumer, all we have is the chimera and mirrors of he's that guy, we might take him out.
And your explanation, Richard, is every bit as good as the non-existent explanation given by our administration, which is not at all. I mean,
not at all. Now, back when you and I lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis,
that's right.
and it was one hell of a crisis.
Richard, I remember I was in the Air Force. I remember picking up the red phone and listening to the DEFCON level, and the hair on the back of my neck, straight up. I thought we were going to war.
Well, we were a hair's breadth away.
That's right.
We now know from the meetings that McNamara and others have had with the Russians that if Kennedy had caved into the Joint Chiefs and had invaded, the Russians had, I forget how many thousand tactical nuclear weapons in Cuba already armed and waiting. Not the one that's sitting on those missiles we were worried about, but other nukes that we didn't know about.
Right.
The warheads had already been sent. What would have happened is we would have triggered World War III instantly.
Yes.
And we would have incinerated civilization, and we would have been back to square one.
Yeah, I believe that is pretty well agreed upon by most scholars who've now had a really good look at what really did happen. I think you're right. Yeah.
So it was only Kennedy's careful forethought and understanding of the scope of what was at hand
So it would seem
that forestalled the most horrible tragedy that could have befallen mankind. Contrast that with what we're doing now. We're on no evidence at all. I mean, Kennedy had Stevenson go to the UN and lay out before the world the evidence of those missiles.
I saw it live. Yeah.
We have zero evidence laid out in public to Saddam Hussein, nasty bad guy that he is, rotten, Protestant that he is,
Has anything sending our young people in to die for?
that would ask us to poise the world on the brink of oblivion when you have a billion Muslims who will look at this as basically the Crusades all over again.
I'm with you.
On the Islamic world.
I'm with you. What could possibly be so important to
I'm
this?
saying we have to look at the symbolism and this deep trail we have found. Even if you don't believe all the pieces, I will give you one stunning example. We have numbers. The numbers coming up over and over and over again. I'm reading Bob Woodward's book, and I'm reading about the meeting between Bush and Putin in conferences last fall. When Putin came over, they in 2 or 3 days with romance, and Bush decided to sign a nuclear de-escalation treaty will be reduced to ex-London warheads. Well, I was looking at the numbers and I could not believe what I saw because against all his key advisors, particularly Rumsfeld, Don Rumsfeld, the head of the Defense Department, was arguing strenuously in these NSC meetings that Woodward got the minutes of it. And I don't know how he did it, but that's some astonishing first-hand information is what was going on in this critical period of history. Rumsfeld was arguing against going to the Soviets and writing a treaty. Which says we're going to do it, and he did it. In the treaty, it says that by 2012, I thought it was a fascinating thing. Sure, yeah. We will reduce warheads on both sides to between 1,700 and 2,200 nuclear warheads. Now, if you add those two numbers and divide by 2, you get 19.5.
See, this is the one area where, I've alternated, Richard, to finish up this little interview, between thinking you're full of it and you're a genius. The number thing, maybe full of it. But you know what, the other part of it may be genius, because there sure as hell is no explanation, viable explanation for what we're about to do with our young men and women, putting them at risk for God knows. When we've got another nation doing what we claim we're going in to cure over there, when we don't even, the whole thing is just so ludicrous, Richard. So I alternate, and I have all these years, between thinking you're full of it and you're a genius, and you're probably just like me. I'm full of it, and maybe I have.
Well, my friend, it has been a lot of fun going over this stuff with you all these years. I look forward on special occasions to doing it again. I'm glad to hear that you're not totally retiring, because my gut tells me, in terms of prediction, that 2003 is going to be one hell of a year, going to make a lot more dots come together. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to like the shape of some of the dots.
Well, Richard, nobody ever totally retires from radio. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. But, so I'll get in. I'll make my appearances every now and then, I hope. They invite me in, I'll be here. In the meantime, for all the years that you've been with me, I want to thank you. And to be different from the beginning, seconds after delivery, doctors raced him into surgery and mended a large crack in his skull, one that should have killed him. His mother often said that she thought his miraculous recovery was a sign that he was destined for something special. At a very young age, George displayed a remarkable mechanical aptitude at the age of 12. You might find probably kid hydroplane, adding his own custom-designed water ski jets. It was only the beginning of a lasting love for boats, canoes, rowboats, runabouts, sailboats, almost anything that would float on the water. Later, the fascination grew to include cars, and today George can remember the color, interior design, make, model of every car he's ever owned. That's a bunch. At 19, he volunteered for the Marines. My parents were Marines, so he volunteered. And later went on to earn 2 degrees with honors at an FAA course that led then to a job in Boston as an air traffic controller, one of the high-stress jobs in the world. His father's death a short time later took him back to New York to run W.H. Perry Inc., family's land surveying business. George, who was born and raised Methodist, who always considered himself more of a devout realist, married for the first time in 72, divorced in 73. Short marriage. During the process of his annulment from his first marriage, George met Father Ralph J. I believe it's Carrero, we'll get it, a Catholic priest and an ecclesiastical judge within the archdiocese of the church, with whom he quickly forged a strong, lasting friendship. In 1974, after years of profitable business management and years of enthusiasm and training in the martial arts, George met Kathy Connors, who had from a previous marriage. A year after George and Kathy's first date, they were married. Soon they began searching for a house of their own. A nest, right? By the summer of 75, they thought they had found their dream home, which happened to turn out to be a 2.5 story Dutch colonial in the quaint Long Island community of Amityville. Little did they know that a legend was about to be born. In a moment, the truth the real truth behind that legend. All right, here from Las Vegas, Nevada, just over the hill is George Watts. George, welcome to the program. Yeah, it's great to have you. George, you're not on what kind of phone are you on now? I'm on a hard line. Oh, you're on a hard line. Okay, good. I got a bit of static tonight. Yeah, I hear that. I hope it doesn't guess. All right. What are you doing in Las Vegas, by the way? Right now I'm repairing computers and restoring old cars. Old cars, you're wrong. This is what I do the most, but I have full time in my it's hard to know when it's time. It's not all my life. I saw the movie all my life. I've been hearing about Amityville, and in fact, a man that I interviewed who's now has to work for my work said to me in the course of an interview that the Amityville house was one of the most haunted places in all of America. It certainly was. Yes. So I assume hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people here. Oh, absolutely, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So I'm not sure where to begin all of this with you, except I guess the nesting thing. You're married, you got family, and you want to go in that fine place. You have that family, and then that's what you do. We each had our own home. So the idea was to sell both homes and one of them. That way you could look at it both ways. Something new and something that belongs to both of you. I'm not sure something like my house or like hers either. And so it's going to be great to put the one on the market, and then whichever one sells first, there's another one, and then do you remember how old the children were? It was not in kindergarten, so he was on 4. And then Chris and Danny would have been 7 and 9, I think. Well, I'm sorry. Well, you're going to keep trying to remember a lot. A long time ago. You want to look at the house at one point. Six people have been murdered in my house. I mean, that's a very serious thing to occur. 6 people. If I remember correctly, in the 90s, we made an offer of 80 and they accepted it. What do you think, Mark, what do you think market value was for that house then? Market value. Some point, must have asked yourself, on the realtor, hey, how come, after you cultivated the deal, how come that when did you find out 6 people have been murdered there? I wish that Tammy had told me a little bit. I like it very much. She said, I don't know, I should have told you this before. I should have seen this is the house that the family were murdered in. And so kind of like, and then she reminded us of the news stories that had been here earlier. The trial that was, I guess, in the process of starting what was going on. So those who don't remember, can you tell us about the detail of the murders? I mean, this Van fellow said that, and I think it's right, he claimed that he heard voices from, your family, right? None of them was eventually convicted of and he's now serving, I think, 6 every year or so. I imagine the house will be cleaned up the west side of the massacre that occurred there. Oh, no, nothing like that. Someone like getting out. You're looking at the water thinking, oh my God, yes. Right? We're not looking for $80,000, $90,000 house. All we were throwing in a $70,000 range. Consider we had 2 homes that sold for over $40,000 each. And he's keeping our hope and sure. We made that the family, and you look at the family or family conference at some point. Look, horrible thing happened here. You had that time to let the house be still on the so we had to take on this, was there, let's not play. Kathy or anybody said, hey, I've never really considered that. Went down in my boat, I'm sure there's always if you're calculating up from your other before the 20,000 are you a religious person? Everybody, back then, I think, something that I believe are pretty unshakable in the details
my hobbies was building houses and my dream was to live in New York. And I told him that he got my house and he talked that I want to bring his house up. I told him that and happy about that. She said, "Oh, that's fucking cool." And you do that. We didn't know any pretty. Here is George Lost. George, okay, so I guess we'll call his father Ray. Yeah. Left the house, went room to room, left the house, and then came back and told you what? He was a bit uncomfortable in the series back. He wouldn't accept him and tried to give him a little thing, so he would take that. Invited him back to dinner. He stopped and just said he asked us what we were going to use one bedroom for, which is on the second floor in the back. And it was just like the bedroom where the two boys had been murdered. So not to use the second floor. So I don't know that. He told you not to use the second floor sewing room at all, or accidentally. I was going to use a sewing room and that instead of fine. There was something about the room that made my comfortable, and he managed to communicate things to us without any alarm or anything. I don't know. I had to explain to somebody else who really knew the room for me, so came comfortable, and that's basically what he said. You didn't really exact wall of the airport. No, he wasn't quite telling me whether he was very Bible leader, and we wanted to do this, and the hotel wasn't an issue. It was a strange thing for him to say, but it was like, okay, you have to leave, and that's where you're going to go, so you're going to thank your good night, and see you later. I didn't back in the time, to come back to dinner, and he said he would, and that was it. All right, I've got somebody else here who had impressions of the house. He's not alone, I'd like to bring on. Mary Pescarella was the lead. Who that?
along with the word, I've interviewed them. I want to have to say, experience a potential psychic, the time walker who picked up on some truly terrifying things and he was your home. He had a profound effect on her. The first time she had her encounter something she only described as pure evil. I don't know that she's ever been interviewed about it. Well, she is something now. Very welcome to talk to her. And so you guys are playing Harry. Where are you, Mike? I'm in Pennsylvania. You've never been interviewed in this fashion before about what happened? Strange arrangements with that. I'm very excited about things that I do, and it was just something that I wasn't comfortable doing. You are private because I'm very familiar in the field of Maryland. I'm not familiar with you. So you obviously are very private. Anyway, you went into the house at the House of Ed and what happened? Can you use your own words? What happened? I'm living at a time when the North Carolina team was out there for years. And I had not met, when I go into places, they always say, don't tell me anything about the house. They call me, and I said, thank you, I should investigate. What is your impression? I said, I can right off the bat. And window, and he told me, okay, right. So that was that, go. And when we arrived there, there wasn't two there, we could not go in, and they went up and down to the back of the car. And I walked out to the back of the house because I like to get in. Yes. And I got in the bed, and I had heard water, and so I thought, cool, right now, that's it, there's cool, there's the water, and it's and I usually say, I usually say some quick, and I looked up into the window, and I thought, I didn't know, looking back down, and I had never seen nothing I hadn't met a lady, I didn't know when you're leaving me, so I said I met Sam, but because children were involved, and I'm a proverbial mother, I was only interested in the house because there were children involved in the house. I looked up and I saw the window, it was the living room there. I believe it was just as we were looking out. You're the one from the Ray talk. Right. And at that time, we hadn't been in the house. I looked at the house, it's very quiet. And I first went into the house and I said to you, decorated the house. We walked in and it was a beautiful sensation of anything other than house. That comes much later. But at some point. And I went upstairs and the first thing that we did was go in and the dining room was right inside. And that had a table that had dishes and things laying in place so that when you go and later and then we have another stairwell that goes down to a basement area. And in the basement area, there's a living room up here right inside there. And then I looked to the left and there was this game room. And the game room had a pool table and so I came in there and so there was a little door. And it went into a small, like, a coal cellar. The old houses that had like a little milk cellar. Oh, yes. Yeah. And open the door, you go to a milk cellar. I never could really go into that room because I had an old overkill. Now, I was there. It
was under the impression that the house had nothing there. I entered the house and I walked on it. And got to the larger had some clothes that I was on. I didn't put in my nature. I picked up the clothes and threw them in. Longer there might be the clothes in themselves. But it was definitely like a dirty socks now or something that and so like just a bunker. And I'm one of these people that is very fussy, very clean, and of the kind of source. And as a psychic, if you say a refrigerator's in the air, I better be able to put my hand under it. Otherwise, I'm not going to believe that there's a refrigerator in the air.
I know that sock smell. My mom told me my son works the way the butcher by themselves. About 13 o'clock is awesome.
Well, I'll tell you, they letters were impeccably clean and how absolutely gorgeous. I mean, they're not going to make it that was for sure afterwards. And the reality is, broken away there's more truth in that house if you got to know it.
I know the finances of all this. People say this is something that hard to hold. Because the money thing doesn't add up in any way you look at it. Either before, during, or after. None of it makes any sense unless.
No, because that house had possession alone. When you walk in, you knew that. I thought they were very affluent. Because they had collections of coins and things, you have to collect it, obviously. That's a little point right now.
Well, it is important. What I want to get from you is what you sense the family in that house.
Okay. The question is, from the first layer to the seventh layer, there's about, I think it's a constant bag feeling, a feeling of rational. And because of the terrible hitting at the number of stairwell, and that was the first thing, was something that was good. When I first had I walked in and I was blessed with an imagination for mind at the same time. And as a young woman there, I was like 15 or 16 with long hair and no one. I can remember those little school dresses that had pastry things. And she was crying. And one of our jobs, and one of my jobs, to do something with mystery. Because like that, so I started praying prayers and go to my life. And I knew that I thought that was what the woman was. And I go to my life, and at that point in time, the house did not want that. And we started to feel pressures and anger. And then when you walk out to the hallway, I felt that I had this is the way life was going. In my mind,
There was evil, real evil in that house.
after the investigation, I could never go to the third floor. But when you walk down the hall on the right-hand side, there's a stairwell. Well, you're going to love sometimes to do things. Because when these people are so big, and bandy and Cincinnati and things like that, and so I'm not doing my evil work.
I don't think many of us have confronted pure evil directly. Father Malcolm Martin spoke many times, and even the concept of evil as an pure pig is it will stand the government 5 minutes straight up. I have a sense, but that's all. I've never confronted it directly, nor do I wish to.
Well, neither have I. And I had a group of friends. I worked at school, and I had 4 great friends, and when I was living where they always take me home with water and their Bibles, and kind of a protection for myself. But you never know. They don't understand that it's not good. They just and because I'm locked in a tough time, we don't walk the perimeter. One thing that I did know about that house was it was not the original house. And to be honest, I can see my mind moving forward. I couldn't sense something real or not. And the thing that I knew immediately without having met me was that this was a man that was strictly broken and his home. It had nothing. I don't even think he believed in us as psychic investigators. He truly. This is his main concern. He wants money to be invested in the home.
The bottom line, Harry, in your investigation, who's the person that you encountered to get in the house?
We had terrified that was going to had gotten to the point where the house had began to affect and I had gotten and I'm taking the door. Well, I had this little room upstairs. And that was my way. I could go there, perfectly safe. And I was well down in the bed for a little while. And I didn't mean I hadn't slept for again, with the prayer and saying our Father, after saying our Father, I looked out at the door, and there wasn't a man that was and I looked out the door, and then I was saying the Father, they looked they were saying our Father backwards.
There is very question in your mind the detail of cells or trap in that home.
I did know that in one of the bedrooms that a young man who was crying about the really bad. I knew 2 things about him. I knew, one, someone was forced into a position to make something really horrible there. And what it was, I didn't know that it happened. He was forced with an energy in the house that was something to making somebody out of things now. I'll say to a bad guy. If I don't know what time is, in time is only a fraction of time. The energy in the house remains. It may take 100 years most of the time. But it will slowly get. And that house is so evil. I took the whole water and threw it outside of her fingers. I took it across my knees, across my chest, and then I said, what is this thing? And I threw it, and it didn't throw water on the fire. It was like a kind of little 15-pound
You're very well aware the investigators, Mary, caught a photograph when there was no child in the home. An eerie photograph that'll stand here on the back of your neck straight up at the top of that stairwell. Caught a photograph of a dog owner with no photograph no child in there. 2B photograph. They got a photograph of what appears to be a ghost child. I've got that on the website right now, www.arco.com. I think the first thing you're on that photograph is one of the Lux. Excuse me, not the Lux. The DeKalb. Dr. Big Right. The DeKalb children. They believe that I looked at the one up on the third floor. And the children were it was tough. And it's like anything was like speak. And she knew that they were not a room of hate. And it was by herself. Without being able to be aware that there was a presence there. And you know, and now you believe that the house is going to implode again. Very well, the thing you want. Fine, and I've got to go. But I want to thank you for calling me in today, and thank you so much. Okay, I'm telling you, I'm early learning. Before we go back to the program, you have described what happened in that house at Amityville. I don't know, I guess from the Three Ring Circus. Now, many in my audience have either read a book or seen a movie, and the movie, of course, dramatized the heck out of what happened, I suppose. That's a very nice way of it. It was very Hollywood. Very Hollywood. All right, but what's the real story for it? What really did happen there? It happened all at once. I think back on it now, I think my perceptions of the person they were then, and the times then that they were only snowballed because they were only going to do. No family lays out their money for a house, lays their life on the line, especially a place they love, and then flees a house to it. It doesn't happen without really serious stuff going on, movie or no movie. Nobody does that. Nobody flees a house without significant reason what really happened. When we left the house, Art, I should tell you that we wanted to get the house fixed. We really did not want to just leave our stuff or give up on living here. Of course not. And so when the team came to put together the techniques that went in and investigate the house, the idea was that they would fix it. There's obviously a lot wrong to fix, and that's what I want to know about. I mean, what the hell happened in that house to even bring the psychics on? What made us believe in them? Or even to the point where the psychics came here. I mean, what began to happen in that house? The last week we were there, it was really a crisis of noises. Things like odors coming and going, or Kathy being pushed from behind by some unseen person. She talking to the person and asking questions like, telling us about her imaginary friend that wasn't so imaginary, it turns out. Yeah, she claimed to have an imaginary friend, right? Yeah, and she would come and ask Kathy questions like, do angels talk? And she was the name of the angel, and she was telling me that they were going to live there forever. And strange thing. So, very, that fellow in that room that Mary was talking about earlier, the last night we were in the house was the reason not to stay there anymore. And when we called Father the next day, he asked what we were still doing there. He was surprised that we were still even in the house, and it hadn't even occurred to us that at that point could stop and abandon everything and get the man to leave. I left it and moved away from me on the bed. Right there. Working, meditating. Yeah. Now, you were both in bed? Yes. You were both awake or both asleep?
her mom's house yesterday. We got the house and her mom.
Oh my God! You're sitting there watching your wife. She turns and like a picture of Dorian Gray. She almost instantly becomes an old. Does that affect your hours?
Okay, yeah. One time it was older than just a few hours. And so, for example, one of my kids is happy on his stomach in that house. After we moved in, we found out that the Halo murders, all the animals slept on their stomachs. They were all murdered, and actually, none of them got up. None of them got out of bed or were awakened or had any pleasure. None of the rifle going on. I'm all six of them. They were roast down in their life in the yard house. And they were all sleeping face down. I was the only one that could not sleep face down in that house. I never slept down face down before that, and I
we don't often look at our wives and see them become a 90-year-old woman instantly and then have that remain for us. I mean, we get folks that did you question your own sanity? Sure. What about the effect on Kathy? Kathy, was she questioning your sanity or her own, or were you beginning to understand it was not out?
I think my damage to that. I mean, each of us were affected in a different way. I think Kathy was damaged in a different way than I was, and I think that for her reasons, and I guess it was much harder for her to recover over the years and be able to put in a place so that get us a sense of exactly what you felt and then later on our times when she was much more sensitive than I was.
Do you think she's all right with it now? Has she come to terms now with it? Or is it still been work hard here?
Well, we did a special for the History Channel 2 years ago, and I interviewed with somebody she was hooked up to oxygen. She had a disorder when they ended up reading a disorder called belly fever that is very quite debilitating, and right now she's in a form of a hospital that causes stress.
Yeah, I saw the oxygen too.
Yeah. She's had a relapse. That was very hard for her. The interview was, I think, something like 8.5 hours, and afterwards we went out to dinner. It was a long day for her. And there were times when, certain questions would come up, be worded in a certain way, and it really, you can see the effect on her, sure. But that happens to me as well. It's not uncomfortable for something, that have a lot of humor in it. The humor is the one thing that does make it,
I use it when it's not self.
It is a wonderful tool to deal with this kind of thing.
The movie, of course, dramatized the moves out of the walls and the flies and all the rest of that.
Flies were real.
The flies were talking about.
Flies were, it was in the winter time, and that's something that's one flying around. And flies, from the day we moved in, and they became more and more and more. And they were there when the investigators were in. And just on the back window, and it's the same window that the guy saw if you call it an apparition or a person from looking up at it, they were holding on. It's kind of a mix, so come back.
Really?
But that part was real. Nothing looking out of the wall.
Nothing using it at all.
That was one of those things that actors stranger than the fiction. But really something that I think they tried to draw at really having the house with the marquee on old stone doors. Horses from the 30s and old stone keyboards. We had drips that got longer and longer. It was black. They were almost like an epoxy. And the longer we went out, the longer the drips came out of certain people. And the third floor.
Oh, So there was some basis in truth. Yeah, but not the oozing out of the wall, not oozing, but something. And then there was, you would wake up in the morning and we would find that substance going from room to room, and you would think, well, okay, it's got to go, or something big something. But there was a fellow in the house. I've been there. It was sticky and it was clear. It was there for the. So what did you do with this stuff? Just try to clean it up? Or it was like stuff. It wasn't like a big mess. I just wanted to trash. Let's move on. So that was a prank every day? No, that was, I mean, you couldn't depend on anything. The one thing I got is the lights didn't go out. You don't try to do that. Every flicker that they do that in the house. Every flicker to go. I mean, I guess I see what you mean by the three-ring circus. And all of this kind of thing was going on. Well, I'm sorry, I strayed from what I was going to do. And one of the things was I would be laying there in bed on my back, and everyone else would say, I would hear, and I would be already asleep, and I would wake up to a sound of musicians tuning up downstairs. And I was the radio went off, and it was off the station or something like that. And I don't know the radio down there, that's the first thing that comes to your mind. You go down there, you know, the dog would be asleep right by the door. Harry was a big black lady. He wasn't, in the shocking little process. He was a really cool dog. He was a lot of dogs. He was buying on the same dog. I don't know whether you've ever been asked what is a logical question. The debate come on here. Was there ever a time when you found your mind drifting to an awful place where you would have the urge to or considered doing evil yourself, George? That's the question I've ever answered before. I'll answer you this straight up. I told Lorraine that is the things that went on for us. And he was the one that told me that evil can't stand it. It can't be in the presence of it. It has no understanding of him. I can't relate to it. And he's right to the right. And I actually learned the mental ability to go to somebody really wants to understand the thought that I developed. And that's how you respond. The only thing that's ever worked on me was a kind of a defense. And humor is a defense. It's not like fun. It never did. And so you were strong enough to muster that out as a defense. It became exercise, but it took years to get what could be just an exercise and not something that was emotional. I understand that you actually begin to have some feelings of sorrow or caring about the fails, going to be in jail for 6 life sentences. And the only reason that I can understand that you would begin to get those feelings is because you would understand perhaps a little bit of what he went through. And that's why I asked you the question, George. I don't know, I've never had any kind of feeling that any person wouldn't do this. And only with any kind of right thinking or ability to reason, that reason has been taken away or has been obviously in such a way occluded or clouded or discriminated from their reasoning powers in a way that most of us likely will never understand. And there's no doubt in my mind that he was influenced by that house and that he was controlled for a point. He provided a service to that, if you will, that horrible any kind of who had a real and went out, trained long-term psychiatric care
redemption of any kind in that way.
Do you think that this case should be reviewed for the reasons you're talking about right now?
I don't know if that matters.
It probably doesn't, but it's an important question.
You had to deal and failed. I thought it just turned into a session terribly non-comedy. It wasn't a full-blown insanity clean. It wasn't a field on that basis that there wasn't an absolute that he needed psychiatric care. So that's like it was amazing. It was so mad. He did it, yes. Physically, he did the murders, but spiritually, emotionally, no, I don't believe that he's in a zero sense responsible for that. Absolutely. I think that he needs help, and I don't think that anyone cares about the radio for it. We did what we could, and we tried a number of different ways, and the attorney William Weber was, wanted to do a book and make money off of it, so I ended up saying, look, for a 5% of their because we're kids, so you know,
The final night that you spent in that house, you never talked about it. You always refused to talk about the last night in the house. Why?
what happens to art is when you do that, the worship comes back. You're just there. You're going to protect yourself. I don't like what I did yesterday. I don't know what it's going to but that guy's not wasn't great. Way there in that location, I had to grammar people going off that.
There is no question in your mind, George. You weren't meaning this. You weren't assuming anything. I mean, it's an obvious question. Yeah.
No, that's no question. Actually, it's 3 years later, too. I was doing this for a while, and we're going to test each other.
Where that had been done.
Yeah. And walking up to his wife, not like you walk in and step on the machine and go. After the crazy classes, they have on a baseline, they do a physiological workup to get within that baseline so that they limit their exposures. So they had taught they're used considered number 2 and number 3 and in the world. Nuclear photographs around the world for the armed forces for the army. The FBI.
So that was one of the questions he asked.
One of the questions was, did you left it? One of the questions was, did Captain Kennedy say
And you answered them all, and was really past the dollar figure.
Absolutely. Later, those things were published in the National Star of all things. It was every time I think where the movie company was really ready to release the movie, and they wanted to do different types of tests.
I'm well aware.
Even though it's the case where we sit down to that to edge and we'll do it, otherwise, and they weren't trying to do it as they right.
Once again, here's George Love. George, when you saw Kathy become a 9-year-old woman, or suddenly, I can't even imagine now what's gone through your mind. I mean, you would have been like, out of this house now, on, I'm out of here, running from here, actually. But to see that happen to your wife, apparently more than once. Yeah, more than once. I mean, what was in your mind? Aside from questioning your own sanity, once you realized this really was going on, what did you think was happening?
What hurts me to answer you right now is that I'm thinking, well, how do we fix it?
Did you see your wife as an old woman, or did you think you were seeing something else?
I wasn't going all kinds of other places, I don't think. And then I couldn't do it. It wouldn't be right. It would be making something and anything was of course, that's the obvious stuff. All right, well, obviously, it's one of the revulsions that I remember feeling also. I mean, this is pleasantness.
And to see somebody levitate in the air.
They don't know that you put it to the house.
I can understand. I mean, you moved that house. You were trying, I'm sure, in your own mind, to think of anything else other than thought.
Absolutely. When odors occurred in the basement, you go looking for broken pipes or leaks.
Absolutely.
When you have noises, you go try to look for the cause of them. You're sitting in the kitchen at night, and the kitchen to your sleep, and you hear the upstairs walking around. You go up, you find the place where you live. So you come back down, and the next later, you have some people in, and they hear the same thing. And you would moving around crazy, and then you would know there's something going on that you don't really understand. Doesn't mean you take it out and leave your house.
Aside from having a creep kid, you have to have the time to left the house on your own, right?
Yes, you did. Right. Basically, we were told it didn't work. We heard some voices that stop watching out. He went around and opened the window in each room. Friend of mine, and what I said earlier that you have people over and they hear the same thing. Well, in the process of that call by the name of Bill Newcomb to come over, to allow it to call.
Doing it non-stop here for days.
And he had a similar problem in his house. The house that evidently was haunted, and he said, already open the window, they come in more space, so whatever is there, or leave. And then he goes, no. It seemed like a reasonable position for someone that had worked for. And he had worked for, and he understood very well. So, we did that. My son Danny's hands were caught in the window in the utility room, and they were flattened. His hands were the window had flattened hands, and he reacted to go to the hospital, and we go get ready to go.
And what happened? This window of his terminal report came slamming down on his hands?
It didn't just slam down, it was mushed in such a way that his hands were actually flat. We get ready to go to the hospital, and then he screamed. And everybody's running around getting their coats and getting him downstairs and trying to calm him down. He hit and got the end of his back. It didn't occur to us so much later that our house never really wanted us to leave. We would always invite people over, but we wouldn't go out of our way not to leave, not to go out. Only there we had enrolled in a vehicle at the local high school. And we went to one of the classes and we had up on the materials for the birthday, running our stuff that we had from the state.
That's curious thing. You did buy a number of things from the DeFeo estate from the house, right? Why did you do that? Because it was a really good buy, or I mean, what was the reasoning?
Oh, what they made us a deal and we kind of couldn't refuse them.
That's it.
And like that. This was bought, that's it, yeah. I mean, so it was extraordinary. I've always had the message that we were buying, or we had an option. It was there.
You know, and really, if you're buying the house and you're walking to that looking at the furniture or whatever.
Well, they were the mattresses, you know, like that. I don't know that. One of the things that was deciding on the phone, they had, the people when they were taking that, sold out the other things, like $2,000 in cash for years like that. So, I think they got a pocket of the clothing, including the furniture and everything, and everything was $4,000. So last night, I was in there, we wanted people to get up on the desk. There was a storm going on as far as we were concerned as a family in the house. We were away. Sure. In the house? No, out in the house. We were in the house. There was a storm going on right around outside. Big storm. We said that there was a storm there. Well, we know what we say. As far as we're concerned, there was an incredible storm there. The boys were being lifted up and flown down overhead of me, but I could not get up out of bed to deal with that or stop it or see what was going on. What about Kathy? That's when Kathy was levitating and moving away from me and turning off an old woman. Kathy was mostly asleep that night. I brought Harry a grown up and tied him to the master bedroom doorknob for him to stay there, up there, right there, and they sit right in walking in circles, going up and then go back to sleep again.
When you say you couldn't get up, you say you didn't sleep on your stomach, right?
I could not get up out of bed.
You literally couldn't move.
Because
All night long.
I was thinking. And it was
Prior to this night, had you been talking to Kathy at all privately? I would assume you would have conversations with Kathy about what was going on. That's why I was in the program.
yes, and talking, and she was telling me the word. People had a different reason they had before. And everyone was kind of looking at their faces at times. For each of us, we learned later was a different experience. At times in the house, it wasn't like we all placed everything in unison or sort of same things were heard.
Well, that's the next question I was going to ask. Do you have any knowledge? I asked you about your own state of mind and whether you were perhaps being pushed against something awful or felt moments of that. I wonder if you found out that anybody else in the family was being pushed in one way or the other.
You need to ask me that again a different way, if you would. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to this. I am assuming what you're asking me.
Are you now aware that anybody else in your family was being affected in a particularly negative way, perhaps to the degree that they might have done something awful? You don't want to answer that.
No, I'm not aware of that. No, that's not.
Unfortunately, in America, we live in a time where little boys have done some pretty awful things. And so, if there really was, if there was evil in that home, George, its effect could have been different on each and every one of you.
It was different on each of us, but it wasn't something that I never that was one of the things we did is, if you finish question now, so probably help is we turned from a great number of times we got police static hung up on unable to call from the house. I would go to my office and I'd be able to talk to them and tell them what was going on. Yes, we come back to the house. And worked. When we got through to him the next morning, after our last night there, and one of us still here, that's what was coming home. He's not coming here. He's not going to do anything, and we don't do any more of it.
Well, did he ever break down and actually tell you what you really thought about that? Now, obviously, if you said that you're still there like that, what did he say?
His words were almost parallel to Father Malachi's in some way, because they knew about the house and the archdiocese. things that had gone on when the found. It had an accident, which may have very well triggered it went on for them, just like giving house left for us. When I never heard the words myself on your show that's on military, but when I heard that he said the church knew about that, that was not a surprise to me. It was a surprise that he said it on the air live, because the church has denied and denied and denied the existence of evil in this house.
Well, George, Father Martin admitted and said a lot of things that the church, as an organization, Father Martin was close to a couple of folks who grew up in the Catholic Church at one point. Father Martin said some things about the Church and the Vatican itself that I'm sure the Vatican would prefer he not say.
But that was, I considered that truly a heroic act when I heard that, because the church has gone to great lengths in different interviews and at different times to deny that there was any validity to them. And for him to say that and know it, and I heard this from other priests privately over the years, but the church has never, said, look, we don't have any problem with the house because we believe that that's all very well.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, when you think about it. My wife is Catholic. I'm not a Catholic. I think I'm not very particularly in the church religious way. That's not me. I think that I certainly believe in the Creator and so on and so on. I think it's strange, George, that the church itself, which preaches that there is a God and there is a heaven and all the rest of it, seems, particularly in modern times, to be in denial about the opposite, about evil, which so obviously, even a halfway rationally thinking person ought to be. If you've got good, it seems to be opposite to everything, and there's also evil in the world, and the church seems to be an official denial about evil. You agree with that?
Think of it in a different way. I'm not going to say that I disagree with you. I understand why you say what you do. And I have no idea really more tolerant maybe than being simplistic and dumbfounded in church like so many people are right now.
I don't know if this is really, I don't know if it's condemnation.
But I'm a divorced Catholic. I can't partake of the sacrament. I became a Catholic after this, a long time ago. And that's when I was a Eucharistic minister in San Diego, San Diego Jail, which is the similar band in San Diego. Nothing changed me more than to be a part of the church. When I got divorced from Gabby, that was my willingness to partake in the sacraments was up. And that hurt. And it still does. I went to Mass the first time in Christmas Eve, first time in something like 13, 12, or 13 years. And they can believe in their heart is true. Okay, well, we have pictures of apparently what is a very good link that who is in the house and they're I didn't know that was my grandfather. And at the time that picture was taken, my was in one of the ladies who was in the house on your show. Doing a prayer show, asking us to come and be with her in spirit there at the house, which is enough station. And so, the picture is more important to me than what the church says, what some
Prime actual time of day you like. Oh, in the afternoon. Oh. So you had a horrible night where you couldn't get out of bed, and then you had all day long until 4 in the afternoon before you left that house. What was that day like?
Well, it's now to when you leave. Getting out of that house wasn't easy. Even after all the other things what he's been doing. Now, so if you go someplace, you go to 10 months, go someplace. Go leave like that.
Do you think you could ever get back in, or did he mean leave and don't ever go back?
No, he never, I don't think he would have left it. He said, and so he's not going to, I don't think he would have left it. If he said to us, no, you're leaving and you're leaving stuck, but you're not coming back and forget it. I don't think he could have done that. I think without him choosing the right words, that was one of those things about me and my mother, just so extraordinary about it. Now we got a degree in forensic psychiatry. He just knew what to say to move you, to get you to do what you needed to do when you needed something to do. Only other person I ever found like that was the architect of the Canterbury exorcist. I was years later when we did a bookstore, the original book in London, England. We went with him through every part of the New York Times, the London Times, and then he worked in published a book on national telegraph. He was quite a well-known reporter at the time, and he introduced us, made arrangements to meet with Darnell Smith, and he performed for us with people with pro-exorcism. I fall in love with Martin. It was a rite of separation in the Anglican Church, and it was a separation of the house, from the effects of the house. He was really happy to solve that.
Don't fear, I don't fear death. I do fear evil. There's a big difference, I think. Now, George, I'm going to revisit this again. And I know you've never really answered this publicly when I asked you about your state of mind through this, whether you ever thought that you were perhaps on the edge or even considering, even flitting through your mind that you might do something bad. There was a story that you took your gun. You had a gun.
I'm sorry, I can't get this to go off the speakerphone now, so I'm going to have to talk to you on the speaker. I don't know.
Oh, that's really bad. Let's see. Just put it on hold. And then take a phone. Oh my goodness. Alright. Maybe it's still following you from Amityville. I mean, that shouldn't be.
No, this is the first time it's ever happened.
So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to call your number back.
Okay, if you hang up on me, then I'll just pick it up and it won't be on speaker.
Okay, very good. That's all right. Maybe something is following us. Who knows? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Go away. There we go. How's that strange? My phone is acting strange too. Yeah. All right. Give it a try. This is really weird. You never know. You never know. Sometimes just talking about these things seems to bring them on. I've been concerned about that for years. Give it a try here. George, are we back on the phone?
Yes, I am.
All right. Oh, very good. All right. Let me try again now. George, again, with regard to your state of mind, there was a story that you went to the Amityville Police Department and you turned in your gun, saying that you perhaps had an impulse to murder your family. Is that a bogus story, or did you turn in your gun?
I had a license to carry a firearm in Nassau and Suffolk counties in upstate New York, but not in the 5 boroughs of New York City.
Right.
And Common Act in New York prohibits it, and it's a felony. So we were going into the city, so the proper thing to do is to drop it off at a local police station. That's what I always did. No, nothing else to
So there was nothing about any impulse or any other thing. It was just you dropped it off. Right. Were you ever concerned about the fact that you were in possession of that? I mean, did that ever get you close to thought? In terms of the house. No, okay, that's what I meant. Not in terms of the house. No, I had a cash payroll for my business. That's why I had to have license to carry. It's not an easy thing to get. I know. You left the house 4 o'clock one afternoon. You just enough is enough. You left. I mean, what did you think at that moment? Did you think, look, I'm leaving this house. I'm never coming back. I'm going to leave everything I own virtually in the house and just get in the car and go? No, absolutely not. Probably would not have left the house. Probably would not have. I wouldn't be able to get it up. Like, motorcycles and everything is there. Yeah, I know. Something like 15-millimeter movies of my whole family. I just got them from my mom so that I could put them together and make a family movie. You're not even a little kid, so all that kind of stuff. They just goes on and on. We really had moms to stay there and follow race, direction, suggestion, and that was the mission. Just leave the house, the toys, stay to the clothes, and go. Get the dog and go. Mm-hmm. So that's what we did. The world became very small. You didn't want to go out, and leaving the house was a problem. To picture someplace, you had to, like, where did you go? That night didn't go to the office anywhere near as often as I had before this. I had before I go, 6 days a week. Every location was 3 times a week while I was living in the house. Really. So he was having a profound psychological effect. It changed everyone's point of view about life and what was important. When Kathy always described the house as charming, and then she thought about it after we left, and it really was charming. Really charmed her. So you intended when you left, you were going to come back, and you thought you would come back then. Oh, yeah, the first week out of the house, the hardest thing for me was to drive. Yeah, that's it. And the laundry cabinet, all my stuff is there. The struggle was just mentally keep going to get involved and stop and check on my stuff. So, where did you go back? What stopped you? I went back once with another psychiatrist, his name was Dr. Heffernan. He said that he cleared the house. He said that we wanted to, he can't even come with me. The little girl with him, he wanted to transfer someone else's as well. And he said we went small violence. And noticed the house was there. I didn't smell them. I wasn't convinced. And that was the last time I was there. So when Laura Dale found the Warrens and got them to come down, she had wanted to get Brian Bolton to come, and he was busy at the time. He went south later. I met with them, gave them the key, but I was not going in the house. Yeah, I heard that. They did argue with me the house fixed. When they told me the house is fixed, then I'll go back. And when they wanted to, and he wanted, they went in and Lorraine and Mary Jane went in the house. And said he wanted to put more people together and come back with a team. We invited in the people from Duke University, the Research Institute there. And Mary didn't make it clear earlier this evening. She had her own school where she taught psychic in Connecticut, and after leaving her school, where the house affected her life so much. They said, well, they came in with the team and they all met and they selected me. And I was like, okay, so we'll do what you're going to do. And when they came back afterwards and said, I called back, you can't do that, and you're going to have to get an exorcist to come in and exercise the house, and stay mass in the house, and basically he'd be putting his life on the line to do it. And I
then the idea started to settle in that we're stuck here now. We got everything there. Like that, we're living in Kelly's mom's house, but life can't continue this way.
Was there a profound change when you moved to your relative's house? I mean, was there a profound relief? Was it obviously at that point over, or was something still with you?
No, it kept going on. It kept on, but it was different. Kathy turned into the old woman again in front of her mom, which she then gave a witness that was different from just me.
Sure.
Kathy and I, when we took the polygraph test years later with Chris Lucas, one of the things we want to make sure that covered in the test was, is it true that you meditated at your mom and mom's house after leaving? No, yes, we did. We meditated together at that time, and that was a pleasant experience. That was not scary or frightening. We were talking to each other. We were in the bedroom. Sharing a single bed there, a little cot. But that wasn't an unpleasant experience by any means.
Does Kathy still talk about this or not?
He did on the History Channel 2 years ago right now. He's getting out this profile. There's 8 hours since the VHS that had interviewed side by side. So I have to say yes, of course.
When the current owners of that house are now saying that nothing is going on, that they believe the house is clear and everything's just spiffy and okay, do you buy that?
I'm glad that they're able to say that, and I have no reason to think otherwise. I'm not there. I haven't been back there in 25 years. Whatever's going on for them, our business, they knew what they were buying and they bought it.
Well, they certainly did.
We gave it back to the bank. They stomach the idea of selling it to another family.
You know, that's another thing that I think the audience should understand. There have been allegations over the years that this was a hoax, that some big money-making affair on your part. So you lost the house. You had to give the house back to the bank. And while people have made millions, I guess, on the book and the movie and whatever all else has come out about Amityville, the History Channel, I forget, or ABC, I can't recall which one, said, look, the Lutzes may have made a grand total of $300,000, minus, no doubt, attorney's fees and a lot of other stuff.
So I think the 300,000 would be the fundable after the taxes and all the rest.
And even after attorneys.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. There's been a number of lawsuits about it over the years. We went out in January of 76. We bought it in November, so 28 days later when we moved out, which is like a full cycle of the moon. Which I don't know whether that matters or not. But we eventually I sold my business. I put it up for sale in the New York State Surveyor's Civil Engineering magazine, and the first buyer bought it. We wrote up a contract right then and there between the two of us. A couple days later, his attorney and my attorney put it into formal language. Transferred ownership. My grandfather had died during that time, and some of his furniture that my mom and my aunt did not want from his house. We got some of that furniture, and I had one motorcycle that I managed to hold on to, and people went in on Easter Sunday for us and got my grandfather's chest back out, which was just about all that we were able to get out of the house. We donated the food to the Salvation Army, and that was it for that. And on Monday, 1976, we landed in San Diego on a plane. We gave the car, and one of the last office cars that I had, the guy that was gift place where he came up at JFK and said, here's the keys to the final end. And they were really cut all times. We're totally gone, yeah. I have one car still there that I bought. Got rid of the van because it's all the problem that go away. 73 Thunderbird used car that we used. And then I left that at Florida's Rectory. We went out to San Diego. And we got off the plane there. We had hotel reservations up in Delmar. We stayed at Delmar Inn for a couple weeks. And Shaggy found a condo for us to live on La Jolla. And we stayed there for a while. And then we went back to get the car. And meanwhile, Shaggy found a house out in Terra County. And we moved there and left the house for a couple years. Eventually, we went out something else.
And at this point, do you think the effect of what had happened to you was gone or still in some way with you?
I kind of always looked at it like it had a half-life. I eventually came to believe that the half-life wasn't necessarily the same as it would have been for something radioactive. But as time went on, it would go away, it would get less and less. So many times when we really made an effort not to blame everything that went wrong in our lives on the house. And so we would be happy to say, yeah, it's going to be over, it's over. For us, it's over. And that's not so many other things would go wrong. I'll give you an example. When we left New York, we didn't have a book contract. We had a winner. The attorney had asked us to sign a book contract with him, and we refused because he was this was a very sick contract, and it was very disturbing. The guy who was trying to get us to donate the house to his corporation and then take a lie detector test, and we failed the lie detector test, and we were going to give us the house anyway and everything else. Plus, he was going to get to say what we did with the rest of our lives with regard to the story, and unbelief. He was going to take the sale 5% of proceeds for murdering his family. So, I hooked us up with Cam Lawson, who's the editor for Jane Roberts' books, the Facebook, the Transformers books, and Cam Lawson knew Jane Anson, and we know with Jane Anson, we spoke with him, we gave him research materials we were doing in the house, and some tapes that Kathy and I had done, about Judah. And we were talking about it at his mom's house, Kathy, after we left her. And so, look, we're not going to sit down and interview about this. You can do what you can for the case, and then try to call it correction of your name. Okay, I was there for relentless. I don't want to go through the game, so it's okay. We went to Delphia, and a year and a half later, the editor of August in the Houston Senate, while we actually had a book contract. They asked that Anson sold the rights to movie rights to CBS without our permission, just went ahead and did it. And then AIP found out about American International Pictures, and what they did was they went and got the rights from CBS and came to us and said, we're going to make a movie, and we said, how are you going to do that? You don't have our permission to do that, and it's our story. And so they renegotiated all of that, and in the process of all of that, then we were finally able to get some control back over what happened in the future, in the future. So we got what we know as the sequel rights. Yeah, which is very rare. You just don't do that, and it's just one of those things that's just not going to work out right. Who's ever thinking of people? Anson put a deal on that about 9 years later, when we discovered that he and Morris Land, who he had worked for at the time, in special film, we became the producers for one, and so far they've made about $22 million personally to the
So a lot of people have made a lot of money.
Well, Anson and Glenn from this, original book, he made at least $10 million for himself.
Millions and millions. You cleared maybe 300,000.
We cleared after taxes and lawyers.
So
we have people like so no one can do anything with the other horror story in the future without our permission.
may, I guess one can hope will turn out well for you. Who knows?
Well, the attitude about it has always been one that everyone understands or agrees with, but what I came to on my own, and that is that whenever this stuff happens, and we didn't know that, and we learned that from the people that we were fortunate enough to meet along the way, and people don't talk about it. And we did this interview, I wonder why. We're going off the air, and I never talked to you. Yeah, that's true. The greatest respect that these kinds of things.
Well, I certainly appreciate your having contacted me.
And there's another side to it, and you and I spoke of this. Part of the formula I'm on is very important. We have been able to verify the artifacts, my ability to find the right program. We said that. And we showed this to one of and that was very important. And also that over the years there have been another way to put it, real loudmouth people about, calling this a hoax, and it's not a hoax. And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, why are you wearing that? I never thought it was a hoax, so I should work that for it. It's the kind of thing that has hurt my family for a long time, and I've gotten to the point mentally and spiritually with it all, it just says, bring it on, because this is what happens, this is the truth. Things happen, and I understand why people don't feel something when they do happen to them. In my own opinion, I would use fiction books based on fact and factual books. Anything else would be posted in this stuff because people want to read about it and question. Alright, I've got somebody else you might know on the phone. Bill Martin. Bill was the Long Island correspondent for the Associated Press at the time of the DeFeo massacre. The first reporter actually to arrive at the scene of those murders. Joe, hi, thank you for getting to the show on the air, Joe. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Joe. Nice to talk to you. How are you doing? I haven't, you and I have really never met. No, we on the History Channel special together, and we talked on the phone years ago. But somehow we kept each other. We were on the Lieutenant Kelly show. And I was supposed to put it there that horrible night in November of 1954. I saw one of the dead bodies and I was thinking about it DNA, and then, became involved with people's telling the story that everyone else was just very precious. And like the years he used to listen to Steve Kaplan, the Jason Weathers, and the Warren, when it was cool and hot. And that's really like the same thing that she had with the hopes, and I didn't see that at all. What I wanted to do, I was hopeful, was to fill the questions I had because when I was born in 1974, I didn't thought the story would continue. Then 5 years later, I got that exclusive radio interview with Bill Weber. And he contradicted a lot of what he said with the lady thoughts about it. Joe, what do you want cleared up? What I'd like cleared up is what George Lynch's opinion is of what Kaplan said, which was counter to what George said, and what Bill Weber said, which issue was what George said. And I don't want to argue it. I was just rushing your George's opinion because we haven't made yourself about it. George? I think you can add a new one to that. Someone they call it Joe the title as well. And I know you have. He's up at 825-5033. He interviewed you recently. I think he would he and did they interview you? Yeah, like that and ask questions. Like one of the 4 months ago when we sat down, they, and if she saw that you back then, Germany. If you feel like Germany, that is taking guys to money to clear up. Germany's physical appearance today to be kind of anywhere near what it looked like back in the 1970s. So I don't know for one war back in the 1970s, but if you ask me, do I recognize a girl who looks something like that? Back around the time of the yeah, she does look like her. Well, she did or where was years ago. Those were kind of things I was curious about getting answers. I never really knew. I never thought I'd go over the story. So, Evelyn, did you ever hear back then that you were a Harry show? Back then? Yes, no, nothing like that. No, no one ever did that. No. There was no, never brought up the trial, not by Weber, no one does. So, for all practical purposes, in the 70s, she didn't exist. For all practical purposes, I never heard that story in the 70s. I never heard that story until much more recently. Joel, you obviously know this story all these years. Oh, God, yeah. Are you, how do you feel? You think something happened in that house that took the losses out of it? You know what? I get that as a person that you talk about for the most part, yes, I did. Yeah. And I tend to agree with the concept that you mentioned before. I don't know if you were going to be wrong or not, but I also think that it's fascinating. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And I still think it's something good to people. And I do think that if you fool around with things that you don't understand, you could be fooling around with things that are evil. And do you think that's what happened to the Lesses? Absolutely. All right, so thank you. And do you want to, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect there. Do you want to go ahead and address anything? George, do you want to? Sure, I'd like to deal with what Paul brought up, which was about individuals into us in different ways. We found out that he was the attorney for the sale, and so we contacted him through a friend of ours, Amy Benner, who worked as a receptionist, I believe was, or a receptionist behind his dentist for us. He was looking for us. We on a phone call that we were looking now, that we believe we had information that local and local sometimes don't get sales up, and we didn't meet with him. He came over to County's Moms for a couple of Saturdays, and we sat and we talked. At one time, he introduced to us a boy who was supposed to be a criminologist who eventually did an article that was unauthorized with Boston housekeeping and home in New York, I think it was. They used there. So, one of them is a smart guy. He's a guy that will say what he wants to fit the book. It became obvious to him when we left for California and had our attorney, Frank Giorgio, notice him formally that our story was ours and we were not going to do a contract with him about a book and we didn't want any more to do with that. We weren't interested in dealing with him. And he wrote back and acknowledged that, and then he goes and he gets offered to do his housekeeping article, and his article wasn't even published in book after that was done. It wasn't that the article was inaccurate. The problem was that it was done without permission under less than honorable circumstances, to say the least. I mean, this guy was represented to the something wrong with sales, and that's allowed. And instead he's a writer trying to make money for whatever. Yeah, so I can't for one second imagine that you would have 2 seconds of interest in helping in any way or feeling compassion for DeFeo unless you understood the very profound reason why you should feel that compassion, and that could have only come from your experience in the house. I mean, where else? I mean, and this guy killed that. I mean, he just literally look at that possibility of DeFeo not sitting in jail for no reason, but for no good purpose. I mean, he belongs in jail, I must understand, but in a mental jail, one where he can get help. I understand, man. We're so short on time. First off, hold on, very quickly, you're on here with George Lutz. You have a question? Hello? Going once. Going twice. Go on. Wildcard line, you're on the air with George Lutz. Do you have a question? Yes.
Okay, and I want to ask him if the proof, personal proof of evil in his life has resulted in a really personal proof of goodness.
Oh, no, that was a good question. I think we answered it the other way around. But really, George, the fact you experienced that evil validates the fact there's good as well, right?
He told me something very interesting that his first all sounded religious in a way. It sounded weird. He said, you know, the thing about prayer is that it makes God say yes when he says no all along.
That answers it, I guess. Eastern Rockies, you're on there with George Lutz.
Hi. Do you think that your wife, you mentioned that she looks almost like a crone at first, once or twice, several times. Do you think she realized that this change was taking place, or was that just she realized it? No, she realized it. She could look at her and was there and really see that it was worse.
I remember, sir, her mother saw this as well. It wasn't just George. on the air with George Lutz. Do you have a question?
Yes, hello. I'm John, my last farewell. I'm a big fan. God bless you, and I was calling last time I'll be your thought in the rest of my life. God bless you, and I hope to pray that you're back. Thank you. And first and foremost, I heard a rumor the property has a history of some kind of Indian burial ground or some kind of
Yes.
that the ground itself was either sacred or it has some kind of Indian connotation.
I actually heard a rumor that some Indian artifact or skull even had been found at that property. Is there any truth in any of that, George, that you're aware of?
When we first visited the Amityville Society, we obtained and all kinds of information that we turned over to him. They pointed to that area as having been a place where there were Indians buried, and that they were their thing was they didn't know what to do with were there was even a rumor at the time, especially in some of the stuff in the historical society, that they would change the trees and let you die there. Nothing nice is just then the Amityville story was also the historical society did information away. Other people have been in contact with previous curators that know of this and are willing to talk about it. But as far as the town is concerned, and the Amityville Historical Society, no, that was their true. What happened later was, and I was talking about fellow Weber. Weber invited Holzer to come in and investigate the house. Holzer he was like Joe Martin, saying, the whole thing's a hoax. Then he's calling up Holzer to go and verify the town report. Where when you put the two things together, one is to say double dealing.
How does the town of Amityville now handle all of this? I mean,
well, they're not going to shut Holzer up, and Holzer says, without a doubt, what happened to Aaron Michael Cosmart when she went in trance and she said, put it anyway, and people away until things are restored back to the way he thinks they should be. But anyhow, I wasn't there. I didn't hold out. I wasn't the arrangements to go in with the bank, getting it back to the bank by that. And so they basically covered it up. What I could determine from what anyone else can determine, that's that.
your opinion. So, the general of Amityville, I mean, they must have a chamber of commerce there in Amityville.
We've never been there paper people.
No. All right. Wildcard Line, you're on the air with George Lutz. Hello.
Hi. I just wanted, you're obviously right about civil arts and sexy too. I'm honored you took my call. I just want to say, this whole experience is obviously very personal to you. As I heard that, this was very intended to do a hardcore interview with you. I was kind of shocked when you got to the part that you said you and Kathy weren't together anymore, and I was wondering if you can say when you divorced and why it had anything to do with this, or her turning into an old woman. I just think how
Turning into a woman, but the health life of what happened, and so, maybe, in some way, prosecute that. Anything.
yeah, we got to go really personal. We went in separate directions with regards to their own personal lives and religion. Their main interest in social is and we're very proud of our kids all personally. We had 2 more children after we left. 3 of my daughters today are ministers.
Isn't that something?
We couldn't be prouder of them, and so the reasons we got to go through our own reasons and our problems from the public, but we really just did go in separate ways.
And you don't think any residual effect that, I mean, sometimes it's really hard to know what drives something, but you think you think it has really nothing to do with it. All right.
No, I'm sorry. And my own thoughts are, and my own belief is that whatever exposes what went on there, whatever gets people to talk about this as a real problem that exists in the world, jumped under the carpet every moment that it possibly can be, and in all kinds of ways, with all kinds of confusion, it should be exposed. So as Kathy is concerned, her point is that she only wants to deal with the nonfiction part and does not believe that fiction also helps to do that. So we differ right there, and that wasn't the reason we got divorced, but when it comes to the house and disagreeing about something afterwards, then that's part of it.
So there's really no point in all this that has not affected your life, is there? You still got a good sense of humor, George. Listen, we're out of time. I don't know how to thank you for coming and giving me this interview toward the end of my time on the air, permanently anyway. And so, George, thank you.
George, thank you for having me on, and anyone that's interested in any more that they would like to find out about this, Rooted Hilly Show, rootedhilly.com, has an archive up for all episodes that we did earlier this year. And we do also.
And I appreciate the interview. I appreciate how candid you have been. And take care, my friend.
I wish you well, and I'll send you what you asked for.
Okay. Monday. Nothing.